Thank you, Brother Patrick.
How are you today? We're going to begin.
I'm fine, thank you.
You have been in a war for the last 2 years. Your country has been in turmoil. You have signed peace agreements. Sometimes you have negated on the agreements that you signed. Are we sure that this time around, the agreement that was signed, you're not going to break it?
That's a lot of accusations there in that question, because I would not say that we have negated any agreement. We've always been for peace from the beginning. Not to get back into what caused the conflict, but if you look at the cessation of hostilities, which is the first agreement that we signed.
In 2005?
Not 2005, but just this recent conflict. Okay. In May, we signed an agreement where the cessation of hostilities and the release of political detainees. And if you look at that agreement when it was signed, our forces were in all the major towns of Upper Nile, when we signed that agreement, meaning that there should have been no more movement of forces after that, and then we continue to talk and how to reconcile. But we are now only in very few areas in there. So really, who has been the one who violated? But you see, now those are things which are really behind us. This peace is the best opportunity that we have had in the 20 months of conflict for fundamental change in the country, which is what people have been calling for from the beginning. So I am optimistic, that this peace will hold, even though there might be violations of the cessation of hostilities or the ceasefire. I think people will still, I always compare it to a heavy rain. When there's a heavy rain, like the heavy rain will not just stop, boom, once and for all of a sudden. Things will gradually, So some of these, there's been clashes. Some of the government forces have been attacking our positions, but we take this just as challenges. But the peace process will move forward, and our visit to Uganda is in that context.
You see, what I see is that your country is not the lack of the signing of peace agreements. You have actually signed many agreements, and you do sign them. But living by those words that you have signed, to put them in practice, has always been the problem of South Sudan and South Sudanese leaders. You speak with audacity that this time around peace will hold. If you can get back to that, where do you get that confidence from?
Well, because I get the confidence from the fact that everybody in South Sudan wants peace. And we, the people who rebelled against the government that was in place before this signing, we are some of the few, like as you say, audacious. We are the few audacious people who could challenge the government and say that we need change, And so the government that we are going to have now is not going to be the Salva Kiir administration of the past years. It's going to be a shared government, a government of national unity in which we will be there. The G10, the former detainees are in that government. The traditional political parties in South Sudan are in that government. There has been an element of fear in the country under the previous government with its control on the national security and the security forces. So that monopoly of just one small group of people having the monopoly on violence to intimidate voices in South Sudan will not be there anymore. It will be a new political environment in which other people who might have been intimidated in the past will be able to speak their mind. So this gives me confidence that there will be a new political dispensation in the country in which fear will be removed, and we will all be partners in peace. And Uganda, who has been a supporter of the Salva Kiir administration, we are now also in talks to see how can we be able to all together be partners in peace in moving forward. So everybody is coming on board.
News coming from your country is that you're already crying foul that the government of South Sudan, of Salva Kiir, has actually broken the agreement it signed just the other day. That is what is on the news. That's what is on the wires. But here you are thinking that everything is good.
This is a reality, yeah. It's true that there are some violations, but having signed an agreement with this government, these are all going to be our challenges, So the agreement needs to be sold, and we've just signed the agreement. The change comes gradually. There's no change which comes overnight, and so people are still very bitter. People are still fighting each other. But now, as partners in peace with the administration of Salva Kiir, it becomes our duty all together to go to our troops, maybe in joint committees separately, do whatever we need to do in order for us to convince our soldiers not to fight each other. So these are now going to become challenges that are going to be challenges of both of us as partners in peace. You understand?
Many at the very beginning looked at your conflict in South Sudan as a tribal conflict. But even though you aligned with Machar, you belong to different ethnic grouping or ethnic divide. But that element, at least from the outside, we still see it. How true is your conflict on ideological stand other than tribal?
Well, that is a very interesting question, because the issue of ideology is actually one of the fundamental problems that South Sudan has at the moment, and how the saying goes that when you throw away the baby with the bathwater. So in South Sudan, we throw away the baby with the bathwater, and so part of the lessons of this conflict is to be able to have a clear ideology, which will become like a compass that guides us in South Sudan. There's no government that can work without having a party. You know, like you have a ruling party in government that gives its vision of the way forward. So there was a lot of confusion with this issue, and I think that now we have been talking about it in the movement, and the issue of ideology is something that is now something that we want to address, and we are going to address it. And you cannot address ideology outside of the context of solving a problem, you know. And so the fact that we are fighting right now it shows that the issue of ideology is very necessary. And if you look at it in terms of the previous, why I say that we throw away the baby with the bathwater is because we had something which was called Vision of New Sudan. So this was the ideology which guided us in the past. But because of some confusion maybe that happened, especially after losing such a visionary leader in such a way, maybe people forgot or didn't want to, you know, but we did have a vision. We did have an ideology. It's not that South Sudan did not have an ideology. But that ideology was abandoned because of the confusion of the new realities. The new reality was that we have an independent South Sudan. So the vision of the new Sudan was understood by many in the context of the outcome of history being that Sudan would remain as a unified country. The historical reality is that Sudan broke up, you know, into two different countries. So we were not fighting. For example, I disagree with the president of Uganda when he says that the fight that we were fighting before was a just fight because we were fighting the Arabs, but now we are fighting amongst each other, and so this is not a just war. But we were not fighting the Arabs because they are Arabs. We were fighting the Arabs because as one ethnicity or one cultural group in the old Sudan, which constituted 500 different cultural groups,
subduing the others.
The Arabs were imposing themselves, you know. So to quote John Garang, he used to say that the attempts by various Khartoum regimes to build a monolithic Arab Islamic state to the exclusion of other parameters of the Sudan constitutes the fundamental problem of Sudan. Therefore, now comes in the ideology as a solution. A vision of a new Sudan where we celebrate our diversity, everybody is equal, nobody is excluded from governance. Because it is the natural right of smaller communities that are excluded from the majority from governance to rebel.
But also you are not any better, because when you got independence, still the Dinka herdsmen who are fighting the Maziria, they cannot allow them to come and just graze, because on the context of these are Arabs from the north, yet these are your communities you're living together. The Maziria suffered attacks by the Dinka community.
Yes, and let's take it further than that, because yes, that is true, but let us take it even further, you know, and say that let us now paraphrase instead of quote. Now let us paraphrase Dr. John Garang and put it in a different light within the context of the new realities, and say that the attempts by various Juba administrations, because you have Salva Kiir as the interim president, then you have him in another administration as the transitional president, and then you have him also now as an extended president, him having extended his term legally or illegally, that's a different question. But you've had now three different redefinitions of Salva Kiir as the president of South Sudan. And all these administrations, the various attempts by these administrations to build a monolithic Nilotic Dinka state, you know, to the exclusion of other parameters of the South Sudanese diversity, constitutes the fundamental problem of South Sudan. So now what is the solution? This is where the ideology now again comes, that we need to redefine the vision of the new Sudan within the context of the new realities of South Sudan. So
and your diversity.
Yeah, in our diversity.
But when you speak and talk about the new ideologies, you the elite of South Sudan, are you making sense to that local man in Yambio? Are you making sense to the people in Malakal, to the people in New Site, to the people in Rumbek? Or it's you guys you meet in Addis, in Nairobi and Juba and talk your things, and you're really letting down the local Sudanese?
No, we have not been talking about this. This is actually the problem. The problem is that we have not been talking about this. And I don't know, maybe this is a personal opinion, but the local person in Yambio that you're talking about actually understood this vision more than the traditional Southern Sudanese elite, because it was a vision of the marginalized, getting what they deserve, and the political elite, for example. Is it in their interest for the vast masses of the people to become enlightened about their rights? So in a way, you're right in a way to insinuate that the South Sudanese elite has betrayed the people, but it's not their understanding of the vision that has made them betray the people. It is their lack of understanding, because the people in their cattle camps and villages of South Sudan understood the vision better than the people who were sitting at the high table when the vision was being expounded by the leader of the movement. So it is because of those people in Yambio and in Maridi and in Bor and in Bentiu that I actually have confidence, because I know that they understand the vision. But how can they rise up, through the ranks of leadership to be able to now expound that vision? So like what has happened in South Sudan is that a small elite group of people had installed themselves in power and used the state monopoly on violence to intimidate. There was an anti-peace rally that was held in South Sudan.
Anti-peace rally?
Anti-peace rally. I've never heard of this anywhere in the world, only in South Sudan. And you can only have an anti-peace rally when you use intimidation, on people. So there has been a situation of fear in the country, and hope through this peace, this situation can be changed. The fear can be removed and people can become free. And as SPLM in opposition, as we are called, we are confident. There are certain things which we have dropped in order to make this peace be possible. Like when we were calling for federalism, 21 states, very many things that we were talking about. But we are confident as SPLM in opposition that federalism is the popular will of the people of South Sudan. So for us to make it into a demand that is a make or break thing in the peace process is ridiculous. Because we are confident that when we go and put it to a referendum to the people of South Sudan, the people of South Sudan will choose federalism.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, I'll be asking, when we look into the rebel ranks on South Sudan government, we still see, if I may use the word, the Denkanization or the Nueranization of the politics of South Sudan, the big ethnic tribes holding major power to almost the exclusion of the others. We'll be right back.